Hi everyone, welcome to the show, and I'm joined today by British pop and country artist Eleri Angharad. Eleri, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I hope I pronounced your name correct, by the way. I've been stressing about it for the last hour.
It's Eleri Angharad.
Angharad.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. Had a long day, but it's nice to chat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, so it's very much appreciated.
No problem at all.
So the very first question I think that I have to ask, and I imagine you must get quite a lot, is sort of how did you first get into music?
Kind of gradually, I think. I've always sung as a child. I played piano, had some piano lessons. My dad plays a trumpet, my mum plays piano, so there was like always music
Oh,
in our
wow.
house and things. I picked up a guitar, I think I was about 13, after watching Freaky Friday. She was in a rock film.
Yes, I remember.
Cool. But I was always in school choirs and sang in schools and plays. I did a lot of theatre. I actually did a degree in theatre, and then it was coming out of that I got to write some of the songs for the musical that we put together. So I think that was where I fell in love with songwriting, and I've just been kind of doing it as a hobby up until then.
Oh, wow. So was it? So I presume that even from an early age, you've always been very like creative, because doing performing arts and theatre work is very like creative work as
Yeah,
well.
I think I was like an extra in a school play when I was 5, and then just loved it, and ever since
Mhm.
then was in like drama clubs and art and just everything really.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. So as you mentioned, your parents were sort of into music and playing instruments. What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Um, Kind of a mix. My dad loves jazz and like Miles Davis and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. They both love REM, and my mum also, I'm trying to think now. They listen to a lot of like James Taylor and some other sort of songwriter people, Jackson Brown, and Catatonia were a massive one that we always had in the car. So kind of a lot of varied influences there. They didn't really listen to much country music though. That was kind of my own discovery.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because it seems like you still grew up with kind of classics, and I think
Yeah.
I think that can influence a lot of what country artists and folk artists sort of listen to.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I've been reading your bio on your website, and I've
Thank
been
you.
reading
One
some
of
of the
the only things that
comments.
goes on there.
No, honestly, I've been reading some of the comments that people have sort of said about your vocals and your music, and I just wanted to read some of them to you. I'm sure you're already aware of them. But obviously, Matt Spracklin said that your music's absolutely fire, and it's a welcome fresh spin on country music. Fresh on the Net have said Casey Musgraves meets London Grammar, which is a very unique and interesting take.
Yeah,
But
I
Casey's
liked
an
that one.
absolute phenomenal. She's phenomenal, and
Yeah.
I can see the resemblance. I could definitely see a resemblance in your music. Music on Tour said one of the artists who transports listeners to a special place. So how does it make you feel when you hear these people who are in the music industry and in sort of media, like this is how they describe your music and your voice?
It is mad. I think like you kind of I think it doesn't get old. Like no matter how many times I release a song and how many people say things, it's like it still gives you that feeling of like, oh my God, someone like actually listened to it and likes it and said these things. So yeah, it's just a feeling that never gets old, and it's really lovely to have all these amazing things said. And I think a lot of people, it's a lot of self-doubt as a musician, especially like with my last EP I was putting out, like it was sort of a pop sound for like, it was all based around a nightclub, so I wanted to incorporate that kind of sound.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure like if it was country enough, and it was really difficult to kind of balance that, but it's really nice to hear like the feedback's been really positive.
Well, as I said to you previously, we started recording. I've been binge listening to both of your EPs. I've been listening to Earthbound a lot, and I've also been listening to the recent release as well, Nightclub Floor.
Yeah,
they are very different, but it's still very you. Like I
Oh,
can listen to the music and I can tell, like I'm listening, if I had it on a playlist, I'm listening to one of your songs.
yeah. Oh, cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, I think it's nice to have a bit of a through line and still try new things.
I think as a creative person, you have to.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah, I guess
if you keep
otherwise
putting the same things out.
exactly. I get accused of being like, samey and old and nothing new. So
Absolutely.
fun.
So again, as I said, I've been reading through your bio, and it says that you've performed across America in sort of Nashville, New York, Chicago. Can you please explain about how sort of your experience was during that and how that kind of came to be?
Yeah, so I studied out in North Carolina as part of the third year of my undergraduate degree, and did like theatre out there, a lot of musical theatre and then singing lessons and things. And we just every time we had a free weekend, I went with like 5 people from my course, one of whom I was dating at the time, and we just wanted to see as much of the place as we could because obviously it's such a long way away, and so we took a few trips out there. Every time there was like an open mic night or something, I was like, we have to go here, we have to go here. So it was sort of, it wasn't really a tour, it was just kind of like me letting like the songs I'd written and trying to play them everywhere I could. And I bought a guitar out there, which we took then around. And there was always a guitar in like youth hostel things that we stayed at. So I was playing like in the lobby for people, and I played at a few open mic nights and played in Chicago. Nashville's got like open mic nights every night everywhere, some of which are really hard to get into, but others are quite open, and just so much enthusiasm. I think is like in Britain we are like enthusiastic, but we tend to be a bit more reserved, and it was nice to hear people like just go like really like get really excited and sort of big you up a little bit more. It was really cool. But yeah, there's definitely a massive country scene in America, of course, and I think at the time I wasn't quite sure where I fit in that genre either, so it was nice to just kind of get a bit of feedback because I was really starting out then.
Yeah, of course. And to be honest, it's like you said, even if it's with you and your friends going into open mic nights, I think that is the most raw, authentic experience you possibly could have.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And I think it's, as you said, it's, I mean, going to somewhere like Nashville, you are going to get a complete honest opinion on where you sort of feel in the country market.
Definitely.
That's brilliant. And you've also been doing quite a bit of touring over in sort of UK as well.
I put together my own tour in 2019 after the album. I think back on it now after like the quietness of lockdown. I'm like, I don't know how I possibly booked a tour alongside releasing an album as well as doing everything else. I don't know how I did it, but I just looked at different places that like my friends had played in various cities. If anyone put a tour poster up, I just screenshot it and be like, right, I'll contact them. Like this person is in Manchester, I'll like stay on their sofa. And it was quite, again, like a sort of bootleggy put together tour. I didn't have a tour manager at that time or anything, so I just booked like 2 main shows in South Wales where I live, and then the rest, some of them were like acoustic nights where you'd be like an act on like a 4 on a bill. Some places, like I did one in York and they had a little cafe which was honestly about as big as my living room, but the woman there booked 2 support acts for me that were local. It was students in York, so that was really fun, and that's where I actually met the co-writer for the Christmas song I've just released. So it was actually a really nice full circle kind of thing. But yeah, I think it was 20 dates in total, so there was like a week where I did like one every day for 2 weeks. And then the rest were kind of throughout the next couple of months and mostly in Wales then. So it was a very exhausting experience driving around, and just took my boyfriend, and my guitar plays harmonica alongside me as well. So it was a really fun holiday. I guess it wasn't exactly relaxing, but
no, exactly. And I think again, somebody who isn't sort of involved in the industry, I think it's one thing to perform in it, but as you said, some people maybe don't think about the travel and all the planning that has to go into it. And you've taken all that on as well as releasing an EP.
Trying to organize the tour in a way that made sense was really difficult. And you'd book places that say, oh, we only do Wednesdays, or we only do like the fourth Monday or the third Thursday, and then you'd be trying to be like, okay, I have to be there, and then we have to go back to London, and then we have to go out again. So it was a bit like hard to make it in a sort of cohesive journey. So I think we did, the longest journey was from York to Brighton, because that's how the sort of schedule panned out, and it was a bit mental, but for the most part it was sort of in a linear fashion.
Wow, that's I couldn't even comprehend how you managed to sort of fit all that in such a short space of
Neither
time.
can I, honestly.
So do you have any, not necessarily venues, but maybe regions in the UK that you sort of stick out into your brain of where you've performed previously?
That York one was really nice, actually, but I haven't been to York since, or played in there. And then we did one in Brighton, which was two girls I knew from Swansea and were in uni in Brighton, and knew they played music, so I booked them. And then my other friend lived in like Southampton, so I booked him as well. So it was sort of like, and he was in uni in Swansea, and then but home in Southampton at that time. So it was kind of a Swansea on tour gig, and that was actually fun to do. But a bit further afield, I think playing in Germany is actually one of the best experiences.
Wow.
They're so enthusiastic about like original music, because like I do covers gigs and weddings stuff on the side, of course, and I think that in the UK that scene is like much bigger, and whereas in Germany it's not so much of a thing. They want to hear like artists, and it's just so enthusiastic, and they're like sort of take it a little more seriously. They pay you better, and it's just a really lovely place to play. I did a few house shows as part of the tour, and we did sort of a couch surfing thing where we stayed in people's houses that hosted the gigs, and they'd invite all their friends, and then they'd do like donations and things like that. So it was a really good experience playing in Germany.
Well, I mean, again, that's to be honest, that's something I didn't even come across. You've performed in Germany, and again, I've spoken to people previously, and they've also said that they've been to sort of Germany and even Sweden as well, and it's like a whole different vibe with people performing really than it is in the UK.
It's absolutely. I've actually done a gig in Sweden. I've got a friend who lives in Stockholm that I met when she was gigging in Wales, so we did like a sort of gig swap when I went over there and sang in like a bookshop, and it's just like the people, it was like a completely acoustic unplugged gig, like with literally unplugged in this bookshop, and people were paying like 14 euros to come in, and I was like, that's crazy, like people don't pay for like stuff they've never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
But it was amazing.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. And as I said, if they're very receptive, I'm sure that they're definitely going to be very eager to come and have you back over and perform again.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to. It's been one of the saddest things about the last couple of years, so I'd really love to go back.
Mm-hmm. As well, and I think I guess for you it's fallen at quite a tough time with COVID as well, because you've gone from almost having such a manic time to then having periods of time where people couldn't travel and people couldn't perform. So how have you kind of dealt with that aspect of it?
I think at first I really didn't know what to do. Like I had some like really good gigs that had booked that had to be cancelled, but I can't sit still. I was like, okay, I have to do something else. So I looked into doing like marketing online and how to get, like, obviously it was like selling albums. I was getting radio play and that sort of thing, but I was like, my streams are still like really low. How do I do that? Like, let's research into all that. Let's research into like Facebook ads and all that kind of side of it. So that's actually been really, I think it was really valuable for me to take the time out to do that. Obviously I wouldn't have been able to, and probably would never have looked into it that deeply. I also started doing all my own PR for releases because I had more time, so I didn't have to hire PR companies, which led me to set up my own PR company. So that's kind of another route I've taken with that, which is really fun, and I love getting to work with like other artists on their PR as well. Mm-hmm. I did a few live streams actually as well, and I think just taking the time to release music like with more purpose and like really like nail every part of the release, obviously apart from the touring and the gigging parts, but it's actually been really valuable and helpful. But I'm happy to finish now.
So do you have any concerts or gigs coming up this year or maybe early next year?
So I've got a Christmas show. It's going to be like a cheesy country Christmas special.
Oh
And
wow.
that's in Swansea. That's my hometown. That's the 9th of
Hmm.
December at the Pitch. And I've got two country artists, one from Blackpool and one from Birmingham, that I met through Instagram. And then I've seen it at a couple of festivals last summer. And I've got a pop artist from Cardiff as well. So it'll be fun.
Fantastic. And that's in Swansea, do you say?
Yeah, that's Swansea. It's a place called the Pitch, and it's on the 9th, Thursday the 9th. So nice
Brilliant.
weeknight.
I'll add. I think you could purchase tickets. Would that be on your website?
Yes, so that's on my. Yes, I think it is on my website. There's like a plugin. But like anywhere on my like Instagram links, all over my Facebook. I think it's like on Eventbrite, and you can buy them there.
Okay, fantastic. I'll find it on one of your socials, and I'll definitely add a link at the top of the description to make sure that people find it. If you don't mind, I'd really like to talk about your EP, Nightclub Floor. I just really wanted to talk to you about how was it creating that EP? As we've said, it's such a totally different style to Earthbound, and how was it like a different creative perspective for you? What did you, or did it come very like similar?
I think the writing came quite similarly. I guess I was just listening to different artists. I mentioned Casey Musgraves earlier, and some of her music is quite pop, and I thought like, oh, maybe that's what country. And I think I was still sort of trying to find my own sound within that. I also listened to like Ward Thomas, and then pop artists like Maisie Peters, and obviously Taylor Swift is like completely pop now, and that's like a cool shift. And I think just listening to all like those sort of people and getting influences, it kind of happened naturally. And then I wrote the first song, Blank Walls, and released that. That was like I had it recorded from the start of 2020, and I thought I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just thought I'd record it because I'd written it. And then when the pandemic hit, I thought, well, I'll just put it out anyway and see what happens. Then I wrote two more. I wrote New Sin and Delete It, and then it wasn't until I wrote the last song that I thought like actually these all like make sense as a sort of experience in a nightclub. And Blank Walls had given Casey Musgraves as reference tracks to like producers I worked with, and I think it kind of naturally sounded pop, and I just thought, oh, quite like that. It's still got like the slide guitar, but it's got like the synth and like the like electronic drums, and it was quite a cool departure. And then I think when I decided that the EP was going to be about a nightclub, it made sense that it would be kind of more club pop kind of sounds, and to like overlay with the country vibe of it as well. So it kind of made sense in my head.
No, absolutely. And like I said, I've listened to it, and I sincerely, I really, really like the EP. I've become a fan, and I think as well with, as you mentioned before, New Sin, it's like a totally different, that it is country, but there's a different twist to it, and it's like you can dance to it. It's very easy to dance to it, and as I said, and I saw the music video for it, and it's how the song sounds is exactly how you sort of picture it.
Oh, thank you. That's really good to hear. Yeah, that's actually the track that Matt Spracklin played on Absolute Country Radio. So that was where that like Absolute Fire comment Fresh Spin came from. So I think I had doubts about whether it was country, and then I was like, actually it's had my like most plays on country radio ever, so it clearly is that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know where that song came from. It's some sort of one of those ones that just kind of like came out of nowhere and sort of wrote itself.
I mean, the thing is as well, as you said before, whether it's country enough, I mean, even if you look in America now, there's, I would say, almost the top 10 artists playing right now. There's maybe one or two that I would say are traditional, like rootsy country music. A lot of them now are pop, and I think it's a new generation that are kind of breaking through and taking over
absolutely. Like people like Mara Morris I listen to, and she's done like collaborations with One Direction, and then like one of those, or with them, I think it's Niall from One Direction, did like a sort of country, but it's still pop. And you've got people, I'm trying to think who I just had in my head then. Who was I thinking of? Yeah, people like Casey Musgraves, but also there's a band that my manager absolutely loves. There's like a Guilty Pleasure, Florida Georgia Line. Yes. And they've done collaborations with Nelly, and that's like a really like weird like country hip hop vibe. So it's definitely like a lot more crossover of genre.
Yeah, like I think times have changed, and like I said I grew up listening to country music, and it was, and I was, I'll be honest, I was a guilty person. Like I was like, I like my traditional country music,
Yeah.
but as time comes on, you just can't deny if music's good, it's good. And
Yeah, definitely.
why should you limit yourself to certain songs just because it's more country, you know?
Yeah, of
Um,
course. I played at the British Country Music Festival in the summer, and there were so many artists that I thought, like, oh, this is like, I would have thought of this as folk, or like I would have thought of this as blues, or I would have thought of this as pop. And I was like, is there really, like, they, as long as you sort of have a foot in whatever the
yeah.
genre is, there's so much scope, and it's such a wide-reaching genre, and it seems silly to kind of have all these subsets of genre sometimes when every artist sounds different anyway.
How was it performing there, by the way? Did you perform there or would you just attend?
Yeah, I performed on the Saturday morning, I believe, but it was
Mhm.
it was really good, but it was stressful because there's a lot of organizing and things to do when you play a festival, and obviously you want to enjoy yourself, but you want to like network and make sure you've got your merch in the right place and all that sort of thing. So it was stressful, but it was really, really, really fun. I think it was really nice that I was on quite early because I could enjoy the rest of the day then without thinking like, oh, I'm on at 5, I'm on at 5, I'm on at 5. So that was really nice. I also got to do a collaboration performance with a guy called Tommy Atkins, who we
Yes,
had, I'd
yes.
never met. He's from like the north, I think he's from like Northumberland. So we'd never obviously met because I'm like right in the south of Wales. But we met on Zoom and just discussed. And you obviously can't rehearse really on Zoom because the time lag like doesn't work. So he just said pick 2 of my songs and we'll just have a go. So I just learned like all the words, kind of like listen to the harmonies that he had, and we were our first rehearsal like about 3 p.m. and we were performing at 5. So that was really fun. I think I chilled out a bit by that point, so I was like, oh yeah, it'll be fine, like don't worry about it. And it was just really, really well received. And there was someone, I just remember someone tweeted saying like, this girl's so good, she deserves her own set. And I was like, I had missed it. But that was really fun. Like, definitely a way to make new fans. And it's actually a really nice experience to meet people I'd like been in touch with online, and like blogs I'd emailed that would be like, oh hi, I'm the person behind the blog that you like, obviously don't know what I am because I'm not like the face of my brand or anything. So it was nice to actually
Yeah.
meet people I was all cold emailing in the start of lockdown.
Wow. Yeah. So, and as you said, it must be such a really like a catch-22, as you said, you're performing live, but also you see the opportunity to network with people and
Yeah.
to catch up with people, and it must be, I can't even imagine how stressful that must be trying to juggle all of that at once.
Yeah, I think once I came off stage, it was fine. But that morning, I was literally like, right, I have to be there and there and park there and get my load in and do this and that overrunning, like But yeah, it turned out really well. I spent way too much money on cowboy boots and accessories.
Hey, I've seen that before at the Country to Country festival they have in London, and I remember I went to the merchandise. You see it and you think, oh, it's, obviously you see loads of people buying it, and I could not believe how expensive some of that stuff is.
Some of the boots were insane, like so pricey.
Yeah, but as you said, sometimes it's if you're there and you see it, it's an impulse thing to buy.
Absolutely.
So leading on kind of to artists, I'm sure you've had this before. If there was somebody, it doesn't have to be a musician, it could be maybe a producer or a company or anyone. If you could work with one person in the music industry, who would you choose and why?
I think it'd probably be Dolly Parton. I just think she'd be a lot of fun.
You
Yeah, I
listen to
think
a lot of Dolly Parton.
yeah, I do. I love it. Actually, that's one of the other artists I was thinking that has definitely done some pop stuff. And yeah, I absolutely love Dolly Parton. I just think she's so funny. I just like, I could watch her sing, but I could just watch her talk. Like
Yeah,
she's such like, I think someone who defines entertainer. Like she's an entertainer, and she's just yeah, amazing.
of course. I think she was probably the first person that really broke that mold of what a
Yeah,
country artist
absolutely.
should be.
Yeah, yeah, she's done
Um,
so.
yeah, exactly. But she is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm think does she still do touring and things? I'm not too
I'm not
sure.
sure. I missed her at Glastonbury in 2014. So well, I didn't miss. I wasn't there, but like I
Yeah,
wish I was. But no, I've never seen her live. I'd love to. I don't know if she's still doing that sort of thing. I watched her, was there a Christmas special she did the other day?
Yes.
Like the Opry, that was amazing. But yeah, I just enjoyed her like lockdown videos on Instagram. Like she was just doing like stuff. I just think she's so like comical, but just really entertaining. And I remember watching a documentary about her writing. I think it was writing 9 to 5 and other songs that she wrote, and just the simplicity of what she'll write about. Like sometimes I think like, oh, I have to be so like complex with lyrics, and then she'll just be like, the sky is blue, and then you're like, oh, that's actually like really profound in this simplicity. And yeah, I think she's one of my favorite writers and artists.
Yeah, she's truly the definition of one of a kind, I feel.
Yes.
So as we said before, we've sort of talked about sort of a lot of stress that you've had with, you know, having to take on so much responsibility, as you're very much sort of self-supported in your music. What would you say is the most difficult part about being a musician?
It probably is juggling everything, because I can get really into like the writing, or I get really into PR, and then I think, oh, I haven't done that yet, and I haven't done this, and I should be focusing on there. So I think it's just juggling everything, and I'm like really lucky that I've got a bit more of a team around me now. I've got a really good manager, and we just kind of share the workload a lot more. And yeah, it's just been just having someone to bounce ideas off is really really good, and having someone to pick up the slack where if you've forgotten to do something, or like forgot to schedule a social media post, or like, oh, don't worry, I've got my laptop, I'll do it now, and then you can kind of relax a little bit more. So that's definitely been the best thing. And I think, yeah, just juggling everything is the hardest. And I don't realize how much I'm doing until I say it out loud, and then, or if I another artist, I'm like, all you've got to do is this, and then I'm like, oh, that's actually quite a lot of things like to tell someone else to do. So then I kind of realize like, oh, that's how much I've been like taking on myself.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So with like the social media aspect, do you kind of run all of your social medias by yourself, or do you have a team that help you?
Yeah, so I run them all myself. Kind of have like bounce ideas off other people, and we'll maybe map out like, especially the release, like we'll map out what posts we're going to do, and then I'll schedule them all in, but I write all the posts and everything myself.
I mean, that in itself is almost a full-time job, trying to keep up to date with social media.
Honestly, like people get paid money to do that by companies.
Absolutely. And I think it's a lot of credit to you that you're like as you said, I don't think it isn't until you step back you realize like how much work you have to put into it. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot.
Again, so sort of coming up to your most recent release, Homemade Christmas. Can we talk a bit about sort of the Christmas release and what really inspired you to do it?
So I think I just always wanted to write a Christmas song, and I felt like they were so cheesy, and I didn't know how to make a fresh spin on anything. And I think it's quite a difficult thing to write, and obviously a lot of artists just cover Christmas songs every year. So I wanted to write my own one. I got asked by someone, like a blogger in South Wales. I was like, oh, have you got any Christmas songs? I'm doing a Christmas thing. And I said, oh, I've never actually written one. But that year then I was like, right, I'm gonna have to write one. And that was when Nina, my co-writer, got in touch about writing anyway. So I was like, well, if we're both of us here, like we must be able to do it. So I was like, let's try and write a Christmas song. I've never written one, you've never written one, and let's just sort of get it done. So we were just brainstorming things about Christmas that we'd enjoyed as a child. And I think it was really nice that, or maybe not nice, but in the sort of lockdown Christmas that we had last year, you were forced to be a bit more reflective and think about like what actually makes up Christmas, because it's like you can't go shopping, you can't go to like Winter Wonderland, you can't even see much of your family. And it kind of, I think it was quite a nostalgic feeling of remembering like the good times and the Christmases that you've had. So I think a lot of people, a lot of my friends were spending lockdown or spending Christmas in lockdown with like their partners, and maybe they would normally like separate and go home to their parents for Christmas. So it was sort of that nice like homemade kind of, okay, well we're together, we're the only people like that we've got at the moment. And what did you do as a kid, what did I do as a kid, and kind of like sharing all that, sharing all the traditions and like the recipes and like having like the messiness of Christmas and like the tinsel everywhere and the tree falling over and that kind of magic, but it's not elaborate, it's not put together well, it's just kind of a mismatch of Christmas traditions.
Yeah, it's like you said as well. I think a lot of people that do any sort of Christmas release, it is very much just they do a cover of a classic. So to write your own one again, that's something completely like it's such an extra mile for you to go. I said to previously that I listened to that, and it's straight on the playlists.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind
It's
of
a
wanted
beautiful
to
song.
have that like John Lewis advert kind of vibe and
Yeah,
keep it that.
I'd say that. Yeah, absolutely.
We actually wrote that song and it took us about an hour. We wrote it really quickly, and then we wrote another one which is also on the Christmas EP that I've got coming out. So that one's kind of like the alternative to the cute coupley Christmas, and then the other song is going to be like a more like single girl don't need a man kind of Christmas, and it's quite bluesy. So I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, so I've only heard the Homemade Christmas single release. I haven't heard the rest of it.
Yeah, Homemade Christmas is out. It was out last Friday, and the EP is out on the 3rd of December. So I've got the B-side song, and I did do 2 covers as well, just for kind of round off the EP and have a bit of fun with that.
Brilliant. I look forward to listening to the rest of it. I'm really excited to hear it. So going into, as we said, you've got your event coming up in December. Going into next year, do you have anything sort of planned, any sort of tours or concerts, anything to look out for?
So I have a gig that I will tell you, but it hasn't been announced yet. It's in Cardiff in April. I'm supporting Tim Protty Jones that we booked in the Club Bach in Cardiff. That's going to be announced in a couple of weeks' time, but you're the first to know, exclusive.
Oh, exclusive.
I've been writing so much in like through lockdown, and then in the last year I did a lot of, I think like lockdown helped with like a lot of Zoom co-writing, and then coming out of it was like, oh, we can still do Zoom, like that's a really like straightforward easy way of just jumping on like a lot of sessions with a lot of people and not having to take the whole day to travel somewhere. So I wrote and I've just been writing a lot. I've kind of got an album's worth of songs that may end up on an album. So
wow.
I've recorded one as well the other day. I found I've been working with a new producer, so it's just really exciting to collaborate a lot more. And
yeah, absolutely.
Releases coming not too far away.
That's going to be fantastic. So would you say then in some kind of way, although nothing ever really is good come out of the pandemic and COVID, but I suppose that I guess the way as an artist you've managed to work around it, is that now sort of being carried over even when sort of lockdowns are lifted and life's sort of somewhat back to normal?
I think it sort of gave, as much as has been awful, but it gave everyone a pause, and the sort of the things that I was maybe not focusing on because I was busy gigging, I was trying to get noticed that way. I was like, right, okay, well, I've been neglecting like this bit of online. I'll do that. I've always been wanting to write with more people, and I've never got around to it, so we'll do that. And like I've always wanted to like look into production a bit. I'm not very good at production, but I gave it a go as well. And like listening to more music, I've like found more influences and like thought about how I want to sound, and I just sort of taken that step back. I think it's been really like insightful and interesting.
That's it. I think it's taking the best out of every situation you're kind of thrown at, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is maybe easy to just say, oh, well, I'll stop doing music for 2 years, but I can stop because like, I don't know what else to do really. So it could have gave me to explore everything else.
Fantastic. So the final question I have for you, a very, very broad question, but what would you say is your ultimate goal in music?
I think to just fully make a living from doing like my own music, and get to a level where I can sell out, not massive necessarily, but just sell out shows in places that I haven't played before, do a lot more touring, and just continue making music, whether that's writing for myself and touring it or whether it's writing with other people. And yeah, I think it has to be like just sustainably continue a music career, and it's kind of, yeah, nothing. I've got like some goals of places I want to play, but just in general, I think it's just to continue making music for as long as I can, and cutting out the other things you have to do to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I truly, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, like you know, your voice is so unique and your music is so unique, and like I said, you can have your songs on a playlist and as soon as it's on, you just know instantly it's you. And
Oh,
I can see really good things coming for you in the future.
well, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining, and I'm absolutely going to catch one of your shows next year,
Oh,
absolutely,
I'm
for sure.
keep you posted. Where are you based?
So I'm based in Hertfordshire, so just above
Okay.
London.
Okay, I live.
um but I like traveling around anyway, so I like going to new venues. That's my thing.
Yeah, nice.
So I
Oh,
like
fun.
traveling, but I absolutely will be catching one of your shows next year,
Oh, thank you so
wherever
much.
it may be.
Maybe Cardiff, it's not too far, I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
Cardiff's okay. I can make a weekend of it.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Eleri, for joining us today, and I'm going to leave all the links in the description for your singles, your social medias, your websites, and the event that you've got coming up in December.
Thank you so much. It's lovely speaking with you.